Roses are red, violets are blue. The only additional pylon I need is you. That's right. That was for one specific person, but the guy in the crowd definitely can accept that as well. That was a quote from 2011, back with some Valentine's Day art competitions. Also back in 2011 was the last time Snute has played against XiGua back in WCG. And today they meet in the winners match of Group A in WCS Premier, where the first player will get their ticket to the round of 16. I'm personally excited to see the ZvZ. I know that Snute is looking really good in ZvZ recently, hitting almost 72% win rate against non-Koreans. That is highly impressive. Can XiGua hold to the pressure and make the upset? We're about to find out. And once again, we're going to send it to our commentators, Nathanius and Rotterdam.
All them references today, Dan. I feel like we have to step up our game, Nate.
I'm glad we have this guy with us now.
Yeah.
It's a welcome addition.
He's making me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah.
With these 2011 quotes. 2011 is also the first time, that specific tournament, that I ever had the pleasure of meeting Snute. Of course, since then, we've seen him at so many events. And that was also the first time I've ever seen XiGua in action. And I think I even watched that series, the ZvZ they played. Back then, of course, Snute was not half the player that he currently is. Back then, he was known to be that one guy that always expanded at the gold base and bailing busted Protoss players for years on Antigua shipyard. I'm sure that he will remember those glory days. That's a long time ago, Nate.
Of course, you dove into ancient history there, man. You're over my head on that one.
No, that's how. Don't you know that anymore? That's how Snute first got well known in the European server. He went hatch first at the gold, and then he just bailing busted Protoss players. We had no mothership core back then. It was really, really hard to deal with on the Antigua shipyard. He kept doing that.
That just sounds like pure evil.
Yep, but XiGua had a phenomenal run in that tournament. He's been around the scene ever since. Multiple deep runs in WCS America. Never really a top 8, but definitely top 16 Premier League multiple times. And he's always been a steady performer in the Chinese scene. Was never able to repeat that success on a global scale, as once again, back then he was the runner-up of WCG. Massive achievement. I remember watching his semi-finals against Titan. Completely irrelevant to this series. It was a PvZ, but that was, that's how we got to know him, Nate.
Yeah, I'm excited to see.
On Shakura's Plateau, that was the map pool we had back then.
Shakura's Plateau.
Yeah, man.
Never again. Well, we're loading in to game number 1 of our winners match. This is the first player, well, whoever wins this will be the first player to advance on to the round of 16, period, in WCS. And it's Deadwing. Deadwing to start things off for a ZvZ. Pretty tricky map for Zerg versus Zerg. Yeah,
we saw a couple of really cool ZvZs very recently when Sorky went up against Live on this map. Just the other night, I thought that was an awesome game. I love watching Snute's ZvZ. I always think that Snute has been sort of ahead of the curve in general, and I think that definitely contributes to the other strong Zergs we have in Norway, in particular Targa. Big shout out to Targa. I'm not sure if he's watching right now, but I know that Targa and Snute are definitely pushing each other to the limit when it comes to ZvZ, as there are a lot of smaller tournaments as well in Norway, which still have a reasonable amount of prize money. So these two guys have always been great friends and great competitors as well, and I really think that helped a lot in making Snute's ZvZ perhaps even more solid than his other matchups.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, he is our Blue Zerg player in the Northwest, representing Team Liquid and Norway, Snute. Up against the Chinese competitor who had to defeat, I think, someone else who was quite good at ZvZ, Tudming, to actually make it this far. Representing Invictus Gaming, he is XiGua.
If we look at the Chinese players that have qualified for WCS Premier this season, you see Jim there, and that's definitely not a surprise. Ever since Jim entered the scene, when, back in the old days when me and Mr. Bitter used to love to make Jim jokes all day, every day, Jim has never really left the scene. He had multiple awesome runs, even in an IEM and stuff. So that he's here, that's normal. That XiGua is qualified, that's also kind of normal, because he was part of WCS America all 3 seasons last year. He's just a very solid Zerg. Maxed is here once again as well. We'll be playing in 2 weeks from now on. That is also not a shocking surprise. But to not see Tudming there, that is definitely, if there's one Chinese guy that we are missing, I would say that is Tudming. Because he definitely stole a little bit of our hearts as well back then with his appearance at the Red Bull Battlegrounds in Detroit and stuff.
He made quite a few cool appearances.
A very charismatic figure of the Chinese scene.
Sick style. Tudming's style is...
You mean in real life or in-game?
It is in real life. I don't know if you guys have seen him. His way he carries himself, his hair is...
No, he's awesome.
Pretty ballin'. So this map, very important to point out that the 2 players, of course, sent their overlords both up and down, but they saw each other's first overlords, which means they don't have to worry about you know, them being on the if it's cross spawns, you don't scout them quickly, basically you could be vulnerable to a fast spawning pool because you don't have a quick enough scout. You do not drone scout in this matchup because you need every mineral you can get to defend against an early aggressive play. So both players will have a reasonable idea of what's coming from the other, as XiGua sees the gas that Snute has taken and should be able to see the spawning pool timing as well. He should be able to get away without having to worry about being picked off by a queen, and at the same time Snute gets to see the pool timing and gas of XiGua.
Yep, so far this is 100% mirror matchup. Both players know exactly what the other person is doing, and nothing is crazy happening. And we're going to, of course, see as soon as 100 gases be mined, what will the path be for both of them. Will some of them keep mining gas? So far Snute is keeping his drones on the extractor. Well, I mean, his speed was a tiny bit later, so we'll see after this. XiGua pulled off 1, and then eventually 2.
Yeah, and Snute looks like he still has 3 drones and mining away in that gas, so there's the potential here for him to throw down a reasonably quick Baneling nest. His natural is done. I'd be pretty surprised to see him try to rush for a fast lair, although if he went for it and got away with it, that'd be nice. It is a Baneling nest, however, and these queens, they've pushed away the overlords. XiGua can't be sure. Cannot be sure what exactly Snute is doing in his base, so this could force him to be a little more defensive. 2 Lings are going to try to run by, very important if they can get some scouting, but instead go for drones and get nothing.
No, it doesn't get anything. Snute is not going to lose a drone. One of the Zerglings does get away, the other one gets picked off. Snute still mining gas. He moved one of the drones away, but he's definitely mining a little bit more gas than XiGua has done so far. So I'm kind of curious. XiGua is making a lot of links now, and so that safety Baneling nest from Snute, that is going to be a very important investment. It's very good that he went for that. Otherwise, this could have been a lot more tricky to deal with, especially because this is not the easiest map out there to wall off either. It's not like you can put 2 queens on the ramp and you'll be fine. So Snute is going to see this in the near future, and he's going to be very happy with the decision of throwing down a Baneling nest in his main base.
Yeah, it's with the Overlord seeing this, having that Baneling nest prepared, he could just make a few.
XiGua is droning up like a madman behind this, though. This is very important to notice. XiGua is not going all out with this. Of course, he would love to achieve something with this. Maybe force out a few more Banelings than Snute is supposed to make. I don't think he's going to be able to get a whole lot done there. If he gets a queen, that would be awesome. But
he took quite a bit of damage from the queens in that fight without picking them off, so Snute defends reasonably well. He does have still those defensive Banelings finishing up, so he has his anchor. Whether or not XiGua is making more Zerglings, Snute will find out very shortly.
Well, XiGua went for that big round of drones, and after that he's going back to Zerglings again, perhaps worried about the counterattack. Of course, XiGua is not the player who has a Baneling nest. He is getting a Roach War, and the Roach War is more than halfway done. But he definitely needs units right here, right now, because if Snute would have gone absolutely ham on the Zerglings and then would have put on pressure with the Banelings, this would have been very tricky for XiGua to deal with.
Yeah, and Snute does have a few more Lings trickling out, and this is triggering XiGua to make quite a few Lings himself. As Snute is still just, you know, squeezing out drone here or there.
Yeah, he already has base. I mean, his layer is pretty much already done.
Yeah.
No, wait. I actually thought it was.
XiGua's third base gets actually killed. Does not even have a chance to cancel it. So 300 minerals down the drain. And XiGua's pushing out some roaches. So can he even push into this? I'm not certain. Without a Baneling nest, it'd be very difficult to actually even attempt to kill Snute.
XiGua on the other end tried to achieve the same thing, trying to cancel Snute's third base, but he wasn't able to do so as 2 Banelings blew up 6 or 7 Zerglings, so that hatchery has survived, didn't really take a whole lot of damage. I definitely like the way that this is played out for Snute, especially after sniping that hatch. I think that's something that shouldn't have happened, and that's sort of an unforced error by XiGua.
Don't let the supply deceive you. The roaches, they make that look a lot better for XiGua than it is. I like the third base setup for Snute now. Pretty much everything this game has gone his way. Yeah. Most importantly, in my opinion, is how fast he was able to get up the layer.
When you're up a base and you're up, you know, a whole tech level, a layer versus hatchery,
you're generally in a good spot.
Yep, you're pretty satisfied with how this ZvZ early game has played out so far. I'm not sure what XiGua should be doing. He's making more roaches.
He hasn't started a lair.
Yeah, I think he's just going to go all out.
He has to just do like some mass Ling Roach all in. I'd still like to see him get a Baneling nest and pray for a lucky shot or two, but nah, I guess.
He's putting. I mean, there's a good chance that he will throw it down the moment he starts moving out. Snute spots these roaches, and he's aware of the fact that this is a few more roaches than you would normally see in this phase in the game. He's going to try to buy some time with his Zerglings and his Banelings, as he's just pumping out as many roaches as possible at home. I think the Norwegian Zerg should be able to hold here. He's already bringing all of his queens as well in a good, strong defensive position. I like that a lot. Snute needs roughly 20 seconds, and I think then he's going to be more than fine.
Yeah, XiGua has a lot of Lings on the way. There's a bit of a counterattack, which is a I mean, maybe he's looking for a surround of some kind, but still quite risky as he wants to catch these forces out on the map.
I don't like this initial engagement there for XiGua. He's blocking a couple of his own roaches at first. It makes it very easy for Snute to get some extra damage out, making it easy for a few additional roaches to stream in as well. These Zerglings are going to clean this up, and Snute is actually making this look easy so far.
It was pretty good of Snute to go for the I don't want to say like surrounded backstab, but cutting off the reinforcements. Is XiGua does have quite a few links to supplement this, but Snute, with the position that he's in, all he needs to do is just get time, just put out a few more roaches. His roach speed is almost done. Once +1 attack is completed for these roaches, they're going to be unstoppable.
The funny thing is he even made a few drones during that push. He's like, I've hold this. Is this all? And then he went back to droning, and suddenly all the Zerglings ran. He's like, okay, I need a few more units.
I don't think Snute would build any more drones if he knew that the lair was only just now starting for XiGua. He will be able to pick off these queens of Snute, which is quite nice, as that's going to slow down any potential transfuses for future fights, but there you go. With roach speed, he can chase a little bit, pick off some of these retreating forces, and now with +1 finishing up, that's #1 most important upgrade, I think, for this phase of the game.
Yep, these Zerglings are going to die like flies over and over again. Snute holds this while still being ahead by 16 workers, and that's almost game ending. There's not really an option for XiGua. Yes, he did start his layer, so he's sort of going to try to drag this game out. But like you mentioned, Nate, +1 is about to finish up. These Zerglings will not achieve anything anymore against these roaches.
Get wrecked against +1 roaches. And with that speed upgrade that he had, there was no way that XiGua could even think about retreating because his roaches don't move fast enough.
This was pretty much a perfect game by Snute. I felt like almost everything went his way, didn't really make any mistakes. He's going to attack now. He really does not have to attack, but his army is just so much better. He's in such a phenomenal position. He's going to force out more units, make sure that XiGua can stabilize. And XiGua knows it as well. This one's over. Snute takes game 1 very convincingly.
Very well played by Snute. I like the way you put it, Kev. Pretty much perfect. No mistakes. Put on the pressure, killed that third hatchery without a cancel. You know, it's 350 resources lost instantly, and then you have to rebuild it. So Snute had his third base up much faster. Yeah, can't really see too much wrong about him for that game.
No, brought the queens in a good defensive position as well. I really felt that since XiGua was so all in with that first roach attack anyway, this is the start of that fight, and you see the back of the roaches, they're just kind of running around. I felt that you should move command here and then get closer to the queens and try to one-shot them, because if this attack is not going to work, you pretty much lose the game anyway. So attacking the way he did, I felt wasn't the smartest thing to do, but in all honesty, I don't think it would have made much of a difference with all of these roaches that were about to come out. Look at right now he's making drones. Snute is like making drones while he's beating all in.
That's
like 7
confidence
drones.
if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. And then suddenly he's like, oh, he's still making units. I guess I make a few more roaches, Nate, and then I'll be fine.
Yeah, in a position like that, it doesn't really matter how much Snute loses as long as he doesn't completely collapse. The upgrades finishing up will allow him to win with an inferior unit count anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yep, having more drones by the time the battle starts and already being up to layer while your opponent's still up to hatchery and then droning up during the fight, that's definitely small overkill, but he was in such a good position. And, you know, Snute reached this game like no other. He almost reached this matchup like no other. There are very few people that I would put above Snute in ZvZ. I'm not saying that he's the best in the world, but he's definitely up there when it comes to understanding this matchup. I've always liked watching him play, and XiGua probably thought like, man, that was difficult. It wasn't that difficult last year, Nate.
Yeah, that's
Who is this Snute guy, and can he go back to the different region?
I didn't have to play this guy before. I think he's coming in, he's invading my territory. I had a lot of success here last year, man.
This was my studio. I'm normally the one who advances to the round of 16 by winning ZvZ, so I'm not losing that. Yeah. Maybe game number 2 will play out better for him. Of course, losing that hatchery, like I said, I really think that's almost like a moment where you sort of snap in this matchup. It's like, man, I just lost 300 minerals in a game that was pretty damn even up to this point, that I really did not have to lose at all. And it can make you panic and make weird decisions.
Yeah. So let's see what happens now as we move on to Overgrowth for map number 2 between XiGua and Snute. I would say that it's a little bit different than Deadwing, but to be perfectly honest, since they scouted each other very early on in that game, it's similar as far as both players should be able to see everything that the other is doing early on. But yeah, maybe this opens up the door for some earlier aggressive play if either one of them are feeling a bit cheeky.
That's possible, Nate. It is possible. As you guys can see, we are loaded in. So here we go for map number 2 of the 4th series of the day, WCS Premier. Of course, we'll have another broadcast tomorrow. That's going to be awesome as well, with great players like TLO and Kelazur. We're going to have our first Brazilian in WCS Premier League, Nate. That's so awesome. But for now, all eyes are going to be on game 2 between this man, our blue Zerg, spawning in the left bottom side of the map, representing Liquid. It is Snute.
Yeah, up 1-0, one map went away from qualifying for the round of 16. His opponent in the Northeast, representing Invictus Gaming, he is XiGua.
Overgrowth, definitely a ZvZ map where we've seen a lot of crazy build orders in the past. And XiGua might be aiming... No, actually everything's going to be fine.
That's
I didn't
an
see that
extractor,
overload.
Trickerino, Roddy, nothing too crazy.
Sometimes I'm still this overlay nade. I'm not 100% used to it. I was like, he's saving up. And it's like, no, wait. Actually, I didn't have my production tab open. I was like, so he's not saving up at all, Roddy. He's just making overload. Everything's fine.
Yeah, it's all good.
Like, I feel XiGua would do the exact same thing as he did in the last game, but then in this one with that, with those, let's say, you know, what was it, 14 to 18 speedlings opening. I feel there is a bigger chance that you're successful with it on the Overgrowth than you are on Deadwing, because Deadwing is such a large map.
Yeah, exactly. Overgrowth's so much smaller. You know, generally speaking, you don't have to worry about too much, and you always know that you'll be. It's like on Deadwing. They both players scouted each other early, but they didn't know they would be able to scout each other that early. So on Overgrowth, you can be certain that if your opponent tries something, you will be able to see it before it comes. And for Snute this game, he's not taking any chances. He opened up pool first. He's going to take his hatchery still, but he does not want to be vulnerable to any sort of play that could come in, because as a small map, early link play can be more effective. Whereas XiGua, I feel, gets the better end of the opening side because he's able to go hatch first, and he doesn't really have anything to worry about.
Yeah, he was slightly greedier, and I can't really blame Snute though. The way that game number 1 played out, that must have gave him a lot of confidence. I'm not sure how he felt going up against XiGua. He's probably seen his games, because Snute is the type of guy that watches everything, but after the way that game number 1 played out, he was probably like, well, I really don't think I have to take too much risk in this series. I seem to be better than my opponent in this matchup.
Now that you say that, that reminds me a lot of how Snute played against you Thermal, picking opener, like, I guess I couldn't compare it to the same exact opener, but the way that he played against you Thermal was like, I think I can beat you in a regular game. I'm going to pick openings that won't make me vulnerable to any type of early attack you can do. And for this map, I'm getting that same vibe out of Snute, where he's like, okay, you can't kill me with any early pool. I should be able to win in a straight-up game.
Yep, even if you take a small economic lead, you know, so be it. It doesn't really matter. Because I don't think that Snute truly expected his opponent to cheese, but it's just one of these rather safe than sorry moments, and it shows how much Snute has grown as well over the years. He's very confident, and he should be. I'd be confident too if I would win as much as Snute.
Yeah, if only we all could. Well, then that wouldn't make sense, but half of us have to lose. So these two Lings managed to get in for a scout. He sees, oh my goodness, you have speed on the way, but no extra gas. I'm not worried about Banelings just yet. And Snute, on the other hand, let's see, he's still mining a little bit of gas. XiGua actually had close to enough gas to get a Baneling nest, so he might have just pulled those drones out for the scout that was coming in, but he hasn't put them back on. So...
yeah, Snute is mining more gas than XiGua has, but it doesn't have to mean too much. Could also just be once more for that defensive Baneling nest.
I think it comes back to what you said again, just not wanting to be vulnerable because he feels he can win in the long run.
This is playing the absolute safest style of ZvZ so far, and there is nothing wrong with that. As long as this game drags out, we all know that Snute, especially when it comes to like a ridiculous amount of roaches faced in this matchup, that he's just very good. He understands roach positioning and, you know, engagements so well.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays this second one. I have a feeling we'll see very standard play again, like Roachy type stuff.
It could be
unless
Mutalisk
XiGua
as well.
takes damage early again, which is usually what prompts the big aggression.
A lot of queens on the side of XiGua, by the way. Did he cancel his Zergling speed?
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
Wow,
he put
cheeky.
a violet on us. Cheeky Calaris, we missed it. Canceling Zergling speed, that's why he's getting all these extra queens. So now XiGua is actually putting himself in a pretty nice economic position.
Oh
though.
yeah, his lair is so much faster than Snute's. He's gonna have his Roach Warren up in time to get a very quick speed. He can get his +1 faster. Like Snute, unless he were to sniff this out, and I'm not sure what exactly would tell him that
the amount of
could
queens.
try.
I think he knows by now. Snute is so good in this matchup. I think he knows. He sees the amount of queens. He sees the evolution chambers going up in the front as well. That's why he went up to 3 bases. I think that quickly. These queens will be able to pick off an overlord. Snute is probably like, you kind of got me there, mate. But it's definitely not the end of the world. Snute will be able to bounce back. But this is a nice position for XiGua, because this is going to give him, you know, speed roaches for a while. And speed roaches are a lot better than slow roaches.
Yep. Snute started up his Roach Horn and an Evolution Chamber, but as of yet, no lair. He starts +1 attack before then, which is fine still. Like, defensively, without lair, roaches can be okay on creep, but He's going to need to start his lair soon. Otherwise, it's just going to be some sort of like Roach Bane push off 3 bases.
Yeah, Snute is a few drones ahead, and of course he's going to have that base a lot quicker than his opponent have, or that third base. So even when you have fewer roaches, or let's say you have inferior roaches, your roach is not as fast as the roach of your opponent. If you have way more, you should be fine. And let's not forget, Overlord placement should be more than fine for now. He shouldn't really lose a whole lot. It's not like there are Hydrolisks in this push from XiGua. So as long as Snute keeps track of the army of XiGua, I think Snute is going to be fine. We see him producing 13 roaches at a time now. He's still up a few workers. I think this will all play out okay-ish for Snute, but it's definitely awkward that he's going to be stuck on hatchery roaches for so long.
Still has no lair. I'm not entirely sure
I think
where
it's just
Snute wants to go with this, because without a lair, there's really nothing that I really feel like there's not a whole lot of options for him.
But he has this base so much quicker. This comes back to that ZvZ we casted on Deathwing. It's just like I am aware of the fact that my roaches are going to be slow for a very long amount of time, but it is important that I keep this base alive because I have a better economy. So even if you have faster roaches than me,
that's true.
if I just defend, I'm going to be fine. So now we see him going up to lair.
So the only real edge in that case that XiGua can get is if he were to start his +2 attack for his roaches immediately. However, he's pushing across the map now, only producing roaches at the moment as his overlords complete. And he's going to try to make something happen. But I actually really like your point, Kevin, because he's had this third base now for a good minute or two, and he can try to just use this to siphon enough minerals to keep a defense going. But the roaches run up, immediately snipe the queens. Very smart play. And Snute's roaches actually didn't attack for a good second or two there.
Getting both queens. And of course, XiGua had +1 at the start of this battle as well. Snute did not. But XiGua still doesn't want to overcommit, fighting very close to 3 hatcheries. And we all know in ZvZ reinforcements are extremely important when you have roaches fighting against roaches.
I love this little roach run by. Trying to just get in there and deal a little bit of damage, kill a few drones, takes 3 roaches to 1 shot, not bad. He did the math, he's got a 4th one in there just in case. He's got a spare tire.
And at the same time, once again, he's trying to hit that base on the right side, but Snute is aware of it. Still though, this little roach run by has been doing a surprising amount of damage, getting 4 or 5 drones maybe. I think this is something that XiGua can be very, very satisfied with. Especially with +2 on the way already.
Yeah,
actually, no, he didn't start +2. XiGua or Snute is the one who's starting +2.
Yeah, well, Snute's lair being done, that's definitely nice from him. He actually goes straight for the infestation pit before he even starts roach speed. Ooh. You think... I mean, I don't think that Snute's crazy enough to go Swarm Hosts in ZvZ, but it could be for Infestor Roach, which I think is also totally fine. XiGua's getting Burrow now, too, so maybe he wants to go for some shark-type play.
I mean, we know that XiGua is a very fast Zerg play, that he loves to run around with a lot of units. He does this in other matchups, but he definitely loves to do it in ZvZ as well, so there's indeed a good chance that he's just going to try to drive Snute insane with burrowed roaches all over the place. And it's hard to keep up with some of these Chinese Zergs, because they are ridiculously fast. And I think that is exactly what XiGua is aiming for, as we see Tunnel and Claws being researched now as well. We saw live the other day with excellent use of Tunnel and Claws roaches on that wing.
Yes,
that was such a cool move. One of the coolest moves. It's like a small, subtle move, but still so damn cool. Burrowing roaches, cutting off reinforcements of the opponent, and then saving the units that you left behind after your opponent had no overseers.
That match was something else. If you guys missed Life versus Sulky on Deadwing, really, really good game.
Smooth criminal, Nate. That's what he was.
Yeah. So Pathogen Glands is close enough now that the Infestors can begin for Snute, and they will be able to spawn with enough energy for a fungal growth.
I mean,
with the upgrades this close, that fungal could make the difference. There's not a lot of extra amperage in this army for XiGua. He just has roaches, so I think fungal could give a really big positional edge to Snute, as he can get a better concave if that army can't move.
I love how Snute has a 4th base going up between 2 armies of XiGua. Well, I mean, the army on the right is not really an army, it's more like a hit squad, but still. Yeah. XiGua should definitely be able to snipe this base if he truly wants to. There is still going to be this awkward window of, let's say, 10-15 seconds where Snute is going to have +2 and XiGua is not going to have it, or maybe it's even closer to 20 seconds. And if I was XiGua, I really would not fight being down an upgrade. In Roach Wars, it's not something you want to do. He's already starting to shark a little bit with these roaches.
Not a fun place to be. I love that he has the Spore up in front of his army, by the way. That ramp where the army is, if he were to try to go through.
Did XiGua ever see it? Yeah, he sees the Spore Crawler now, which I think is very important. Fungal could land there. Ooh, Snute kind of sleeping on a job there. I really think he would have been able to catch a bunch of roaches there if he wanted to.
Yeah, and Snute actually had roaches to defend this gold base.
10 seconds for +2 to finish up for XiGua. The fight is probably going to start before +2 is ready.
Gets a couple volleys in without that +2 attack. Now the Infestors come in. Fungal Growth being thrown on this army. Good spread for both players. Quite a few of the roaches in the back, though.
I like
for
the
both
positioning
sides,
from
can't
Snute
fight.
much better.
Yeah, Snute has a better, he's had more surface area to actually work with for this army, and then having the upgrade advantage just for the first few seconds is always very nice. Of course, the reinforcement distance is much closer for Snute. He's moving into Hydralisks behind this, and he even has Spine Crawlers to cover his other ramp in case XiGua was to attempt to run around the other side.
Yeah. When we say rock solid, Nate, this is pretty much what we mean. Snute has been so solid. XiGua has been actively looking for openings left and right, trying to drag Snute out of position, trying it with tunneling claws as well, but Snute just not really leaving any openings other than these 3 roaches early on that entered his main base. And other than that, everything that Snute has done so far is just very solid. And now he's slowly but steady working towards a much, much better army composition than XiGua is. And XiGua is just trying to remax on Roach as quickly as he can, because he might be afraid that his opponent is going to attack him. Snute now has a few Infestors, has a few Hydralisks. Of course, he doesn't have too much Fungo in the upcoming fight. That is the only thing that doesn't really work his way. But that is an awesome Fungo. He should be able to kill all of these roaches immediately.
Really nice grab.
At least
with
a lot
the
of them.
Hydras, he just rips through it so quickly. At the same time, he runs over to the gold base, trying to pick off the drones in this mineral line. But they're locked in for life. These roaches aren't going to be able to escape.
Yeah, I mean, XiGua is kind of pushing the issue over here. He's desperately looking for an opening, but there is just no openings against Snute, man.
You know what? When he kills these drones, he opens supply for Snute to build more roaches. So now he's got a greater army supply.
Yeah, Snute should probably just counterattack, and I don't think that XiGua will be able to muster out enough units to somehow defend against this overwhelming army of Snute that's not only maxed out, but is also just a stronger composition. He has Hydralisk. He might have a Fungal or 2 to work with as well. I think he used most of his energy. XiGua needs to defend his gold base, but I'm not sure if that's possible. With these Hydras in the mix as well, Snute's army is simply better, and he's been way more efficient this game.
Yeah, even with the Spine Crawlers trying to defend, it is simply not going to be enough. Snute crashes through, and GG is called. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your first player advancing to the WCS round of 16.
It does feel good when you know, everybody is hyping up a player and he just delivers in such a way. Just absolutely convincing victories by Snute throughout the entire day. 2-0 over U-Thermal, 2-0 over XiGua. Looked so solid, I think, especially in this ZvZ series. The last game is probably the game that I was most impressed with. You could really see XiGua looking for openings left and right, trying to make something happen. But Snute just kind of said, nah, not today. Left enough units at every single position, was always ready to deal with whatever XiGua had in mind. And then in the end, after he just killed a bunch of roaches with after 1 or 2 good fungals, he's like, all right, now it's time for me to attack. I don't need a whole lot of attacks, I just need 1.
Yeah, and it worked out as well as it needed to. It's a dangerous game to play in ZvZ with a very late lair, Roddy, but a very well-played game by Snute. Being able to move on, it's comforting. He just comes in, cleans up in his group. That leaves XiGua to play against U-Thermal, which I think will be pretty good match.
Yeah, this is kind of what I thought in the start of the day as well. Australia was a clear underdog going into this group. I think Snute was the favorite on paper, but you never really see how it plays out. There have been multiple times in the past, especially within WCS, where you know, we were all hyping a player and we all had high expectations of a certain player, and then suddenly he just bombed out in the round of 32 or maybe the round of 16. But that's not the case so far for Snute. He was convincing, he lived up to the hype, and he delivered the way that we expect Snute to do, but he still did it. It's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you talk about the upsets, think was Season 3 of last year, WCS America, we're like, okay, Aiga's the underdog in this group, comes out first place, like, well, wrong on that one.
We had so many big names in the past, you know, in round of 38, Koreans and non-Koreans dropping out. So just being the favorite doesn't mean that you're actually going to advance to the round of 16, but Snute did everything what we expected him to do, and perhaps even more. Like, the first series was a tiny bit sloppy. You know, game number 1 he was on the ropes a little bit against U-Thermal. Game number 2 was already better, but this ZvZ series, that, you know, that is just a clinic of how to play ZvZ.
Yeah.
How to play ZvZ 101 by Snute, the master. I'd sign up for that class, Nate. Sounds like a fun class.
Well, I need it if I'm ever going to be able to beat you in ZvZ, Roddy.
That still has to happen.
We'll get to it. We'll get there one day.
The funny thing is, we're both going to take notes, and we'll be exactly like Snute, just
we'll
way
both
worse.
use Snute's build.
Snute is going to look at this series. That's not my build. It is Snute. It's just
like, but we copied it from you. So like, you guys clearly have no idea how to play
That is a
ZvZ.
sorry excuse for my build. Get away.
Well, anyway, another big congratulations to Snute moving on as got a nice little bit of time now to prepare for the round of 16.
Yep, nothing better than just making the journey to the US, 4-0 in your group, it flies home so much better. Even like if you would advance, like Snute is also a player that's very critical of himself. Sometimes he has advanced in the past, but he's like, just not happy with the way I played today. I think he can be pretty happy, especially with that last series. But let's hear from the man himself as he's on the couch with Dan.
Wow. That was really impressive. I mean, everyone else, of course, is really in awe. But the first question is, do you ever watch yourself ZvZ VODs and pick up your mood if you're having a bad day? Because I think you should. That was very good play. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a very trademark European ZvZ style, where you play defensive and go 6 gas and try to get a lot of technology focus. I wanted to do this in Taipei as well, but my early game was not good enough. Usually I lost a lot in early games, so I was just really happy about being able to play ZvZs that I enjoy, ZvZs that go to my comfort zone. So yeah, really satisfied with these games.
Well, it looks like everything went according to the game plan. Snute, I want to get to know a little bit more about how this year was. Last year there's a lot of expectations, and this year I think with some people falling in and out in terms of the top non-Korean players, I think even more focus is upon your performance. How do you deal with that kind of pressure, especially now that everyone's focusing on you in this type of region as one of the favorites to perhaps take it all?
Yeah, I learned a lot from the BlizzCon hype train last year, so I try not to think about it at all. And it's the same story this year. I feel less pressure. There's not the BlizzCon thing going on. It's still early in the year. People aren't really thinking about it. And as for winning a WCS season, I'm just going to do my best, and I don't have a goal to win a season. I would like to, but there's no pressure.
Scarlett has announced that she's taking a break. We all know that players like Stefanos have also been away for a while, and when they come back, they're not as strong. You've been performing very well for the past few years. I think the first tournament I saw you break out was One Nation of Gamers all the way back then, right, a few years from now. What keeps you motivated throughout all these years to still keep going? It seems like people who get to the top, at least here, they burn out a little bit, but it seems like you're going strong. What's keeping you going?
Yeah, I have a really strong motivation to understand how to use my brain better, I guess, and learning to get better at the game. When I first started out, I got a lot of crap from professional established players.
Yeah, you did.
That gave me some motivation to get better and beat them. And when the Koreans are setting such a good example, especially players such as Life, for example, showcasing excellent Zerg play for such a long time, and especially recently, I feel like Life has just become even better, if it was possible.
I believe.
I have a lot of players that I look up to, so I just try to be like them and get better at the game.
That's a very humble attitude for a person that a lot of their money is on you, at least in that department. Well, Snute, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know it's been a very stressful few hours for you, but you've done it. Is there any last words you would say to the fans on this special Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I was really close to having to forfeit this tournament because I got sick basically 72 hours before my departure flight. But I made sure to sleep 18 hours every night just so I could make it here. So just thanks to everyone who cheered for me, and here in the audience as well. I was really happy that I could make it here and not have to forfeit. Yeah, if I got sick a little bit later, I wouldn't have the time to recover. So I'm just really happy to be here. And that helped me relax a bit as well. I didn't feel much pressure because I've basically been super sick the last few days. So just really happy to play some games again.
Oh, I think everyone's really... Are you guys happy that Snute's here and he made it his flight all the way here to California? I think you are. Yeah. That's all right. I think a lot of these people, they're really pulling for you, man. Congratulations once again on your win, and good luck in the round of 16. In the meantime, guys, we're not done yet. We have one player into the round of 16, but we have one more to decide between XiGua and XiGua. What's going to happen? Find out right after this break.